Welcome everybody to the Unapologetic Truth, the channel. We speak the truth and don't apologize for it. Why? Because the truth never apologizes. Alright, breaking news. The dollar is going to collapse. And guess what? You can't do nothing about it. Alright, now, I made a video about the downfall of America and the downfall of the dollar sometime last year. If you haven't watched that video, scroll down the video list and check out the content. I do bring premium content because, you guys deserve premium content. If you subscribe to the channel, you supporting the channel, you deserve premium content, right? So, I know you're feeling it right now. I know you're feeling the hyperinflation. Well, not hyperinflation just yet, but I know you're feeling inflation. Gas prices are high. Food prices is going out of control. I'm pretty sure you're seeing the grocery store shelves are inch by inch being empty and staying empty. Housing is gonna explode, go sky high. They're raising interest rates. Inflation is 7%. 7%. On pace for a record. Right? So, we're gonna get into the video. I want to show you how the dollar began its, I don't want to say decline, because see, fiat currency is different, and every country that has a fiat currency always collapse. I'm gonna show you in a little bit, down the line. I'm gonna show you how it, how it collapses. But yeah, in the beginning, the U.S. dollar was backed by what? It was backed by gold. When they took the gold standard away from the dollar, now the dollar became debt. So basically it became valueless, useless. The only value the dollar has is what the people place on it. So it really doesn't have any tangible value, right? Alright, so I'm going to show you this clip, this first clip is showing you how the downfall of the dollar began. Right after they took it away from the gold standard. Let's take a look.
The 1913 Federal Reserve Act was a pivotal congressional act that helped establish the Federal Reserve System as it exists today. It is one of the United States financial system's most influential laws. In the years prior to 1913, financial panics occurred in the United States with regularity. The Panic of 1907, during which the New York Stock Exchange fell almost 50% from its 1906 high, saw many banks and companies go bankrupt. The country needed a currency reform that could provide a degree of financial stability.
And when they did that, that's what turned our currency into a fiat currency. When they created this law.
Into law by President Woodrow Wilson, the 1913 Federal Reserve Act created the Federal Reserve System, also called the Fed. The Fed is the central bank of the United States. The Fed manages the nation's monetary policy through manipulations of the nation's money supply and interest rates. The Fed also established the 12 regional Federal Reserve Banks. Each can print money to ensure economic stability. While the system has slightly changed in response to events like the Great Depression of the 1930s, today it still serves the purpose for which it was intended.
So, with that being said, they signed the Federal Reserve Act, right? Okay, so Um, with that being said, we know that the Federal Reserve is not owned by the U.S. government. It's actually privately owned. So if you didn't know that, I just gave you something new to find out. Learn something new every day. Remember that. Nobody knows everything. Alright? But the point is, the Federal Reserve is not owned by the government, by the U.S. government. It's privately owned, right? So the government is borrowing money from this privately owned business. So the government is in debt to this business. Do you see what I'm saying? Right? When they buy up stocks and bonds and securities, they buying up, you know, lots of property, lots of land, and things like that. But we're gonna get into that a little later too. I just gave you a little sneak peek, But we're gonna get into that a little bit later. Let's get to the next clip. So I'm trying to show y'all how this dollar is doomed to collapse. There's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing that the U.S. government can do about it. There's nothing anybody from the international people can do about it, because guess what? They are dependent on the dollar. So if the dollar collapses, guess what? The global system collapses. The earth-wide system collapses. Alright, let's get to this next clip. Let's see here.
In the wake of the coronavirus crisis, the fiscal bonanza from Congress and stimulative monetary policy from the Federal Reserve have a lot of people wondering about inflation. With all of this government spending, the stimulus checks...
Also, remember, in the video I was telling you about, you guys need to go watch that video, I'm telling you. Agenda 21. But in this video, right, I spoke about how you getting these checks from the government, they don't come out of this thin earth. They have to be printed. So the more printing they do with the money and pushing the money into the economy, the more inflation rises. They printing trees and trees and dollars and giving it to you, but that causes inflation. That's one of the detriments to, and it's just not just the, don't get me wrong, it's just not just the checks that they send out. It's not just that, because they print trillions of dollars, and if you can look at the ledgers, you can see what they spend their money on, and it's really basic bull crap that they spend their money on. Trips and toilets and things like that. You know what I'm saying? Thousands of dollars of tax money on toilets and stuff. You feel what I'm saying? Like, it's ridiculous. But anyway, printing money is causing inflation to rise tremendously. He's going to explain this, so please listen up, because this guy is giving you some gems. You guys need to prepare, because it's inevitable, right, inevitable. So, let's listen.
PPP loans, enhanced unemployment insurance, low interest rates, and the money printer going wild. We must be facing a huge risk of inflation, right? Well, not so fast. The answer might not be so simple.
Listen.
I'm a vice president at Altamont Capital Partners, a private equity fund based in the Bay Area, and I'm on a mission to demystify the world of finance with storytelling. I tend to think that the simplest way to talk about inflation and deflation is to use the analogy of a balloon. Imagine the economy as a big balloon. In March, you had a massive shock that put a tear in that balloon. People weren't spending money because they were stuck inside. So naturally, the balloon began to deflate. The Fed, Congress, and policymakers all saw this, and started frantically pumping in air to fill it back up. But why? Well, central banks traditionally follow Keynesian economic principles, which says that spending is the holy grail of economic growth and what everyone should strive for. Inflation incentivizes spending because your dollars in the future are worth less than they are today. You're incentivized to spend, not save. Deflation to them means that our debts that we have incurred over many years become unmanageable. Defaults occur, and a vicious cycle of deleveraging may ensue.
And this goes from the bottom, you know what I'm saying, the 99, well, I said it, the 90%, well, the 80%, the 80% to the 10% to the 1%. And what I mean by that is I do my division differently. The bottom 80% is the people who's working 9 to 5, you know what I'm saying, and is living paycheck to paycheck, right? The 10% are the middle class, the people who they work, but they don't have to struggle and live from paycheck to paycheck, you know. And then you have the 1%, which, I mean, shit, you know, they got money, so I didn't really have to say anything about that. But this is what happens. Let me be quiet so you can hear this guy, because this guy gonna explain it the way I can't explain it. So, listen up.
So they do everything they can to avoid this. This means pumping air back in, hence the stimulative monetary policy, low interest rates, quantitative easing, and the like, as well as the fiscal bonanza from Congress. So what comes next? What are the risks of all of this? Are we likely to see rampant inflation? First off, let me just say that there are no easy answers to this question. Put simply, deflation just means that the purchasing power of your dollar is increasing over time.
Right.
Inflation is the opposite of that. The purchasing power of your dollar goes down. Stagflation is a unique one in that it is an environment where you have inflation alongside higher unemployment and lack of wage growth.
Now, if you listen to the statistics that they bring out, right? Unemployment is at an all-time high. They're saying people don't even want to go back to work. You know what I mean? Because inflation's so high, and it's not even worth even going to work for some crumbs, because you're making $12, $15 an hour, $16 an hour, and that's not what does that helps you. Not making enough to even survive. You rarely making enough to even pay your rent, let alone bills and your essentials like clothes, food, water. And then not only that, but the other things that you need. Like, there's no way you will be able to survive. You have to make at least $60 an hour to keep up with inflation. And then once inflation go up more, more raises will have to come, because first of all, you're not gonna be able to. It says like this, right? 10 years ago, if you was making $25 an hour, you making an okay living, right? Making an okay living. Fast forward to now, you still making that same $25, but now you're struggling. Even if you went up within those 10 years, $3 to $4. So you're making $27, $28 an hour, right? So you're making $27, $28 an hour, but it still feels like you're making $25 an hour, because inflation went up, prices went up. So it's just like you didn't get a raise. You see where I'm getting at, right? Alright, so let's listen to what these other outcomes he has to say.
The risk today is much more around deflation versus inflation. You have an environment where banks are actually tightening their lending standards, not loosening them.
Listen.
If deflation is completely intolerable for the Fed and Congress, they will do more and more to avoid it, which, if unchecked, could flip you into an environment of higher inflation very quickly. If we remain in an environment of record-breaking deficit spending alongside zero interest rates, it is certainly one possible outcome here that we would see a world of rising inflation and high unemployment, the dreaded stagflation.
Stagflation. You don't want to see stagflation. Believe me. You will see people not being able to pay rent, so they homeless. It's gonna be millions on top of millions, nowhere to go. You understand? The elite want this to happen. They want this to happen. In order for a full takeover of America, you have to take it down from the inside. You can't take how many countries tried to take America down from the outside and failed? You have to take America down internally. This is what's going on today. The elites do manipulate the stock market and the crypto market. They manipulate these markets. The more manipulation, the more higher inflation. This is another cause of inflation. You have many causes that all converge that is going to bring us to where it's going to be stagflation. Remember, they're trying to enslave you. How do you do that? You have to be the one who owns everything. This is what they're doing. They're buying up everything. We're going to get to that a little later too. How they buying up everything. The Federal Reserve, not the government. The Federal Reserve. Remember, they is not owned by the government. They're a private entity. It's own entity. Remember that. Right? And they owned by the elite. So remember, listen to me. The Federal Reserve is owned by the elite. The elite is buying up everything. Land. The debt, everything. But we're gonna get to that a little later. I'm giving up, my little surprise I got for y'all to let y'all know how this gonna end, right? So he getting the stagflation. You don't want to see stagflation. Let's see what else he has to say.
That plagued the U.S. in the 1970s after the oil crisis of 1973.
Now, I don't want to make this too long. So we're going to try to get through this as quickly as possible. So what does it look like? What does it look like to be in a hyperinflation moving into a stagflation? What does it look like? What does it feel like? You're going to find out. But I'm gonna show you right now, so I'm trying to get y'all ready. I hope y'all know. So let's see how much damage this can cause to a nation. Let's see if a nation can withstand a stagflation or a hyperinflation. I said it right. Stagflation or hyperinflation. Let's get it.
Can hyperinflation do to a country? If you search the globe for economic meltdowns, Lebanon is high on the list. The country has seen its currency lose 90% of its value against the US dollar in just 2 years. A government paralyzed by infighting and factionalism has done little to make life easier. Add that all up and you get this.
Fury on the streets of Beirut. Lebanon is descending fast into an economic crisis that the World Bank says will likely rank among the world's worst of the last 150 years.
Remember, I told you, they are collapsing everyone's currency. They collapsing everyone's currency. And they leaving the West for last. They saving them for last because the over there towards the east, those nations are easier to manipulate and destroy versus over here in the West with Russia and China and America and Europe and all of that. You feel what I'm saying? So they right now destroying it over there. Like it's so frustrating. It's hard to get the words out because in my head, the words are moving 100 miles an hour. So it's my words are moving too fast for my mouth to get out because it's so much that I know that I can tell you and I can show you proof of. But it's like a lot of people don't like to listen, or they be in denial, and it's hard to break that denial, right? So they destroying these other countries' currencies, and then once that is done, America and the West is the only thing that's left, and they are working on that right now, as you can see. They're on their way to working on that, and this is what you're gonna see every single day when you walk out your door. This right here is what you're gonna see when you walk out your door every single day. You're gonna have to learn how to protect your children, protect your family, and protect yourself. You're gonna need to learn how to feed your family. You're gonna need to learn how to survive in a third world country. If you've never been in situations like this, you better learn fast, because if you don't, I feel sorry for you. I really do. So let's get back to the clip.
There was no growth and there was no sign of hope.
It's the biggest Ponzi schemes in modern history.
Finally, catastrophe.
Recently, thousands hit the streets of Beirut to commemorate last year's port blast. The disaster has come to symbolize the government's failure and a society that is ready to explode. That failure can be measured with the long lines for fuel, medical supplies, and food. At the start of the crisis,
and as you can see here in America, gas prices is getting high. I know you feel it, because my car used to take $20 a week. A week. Now it's $50. And I have a small car. You see the big difference? 2 years ago, it was $20 to fill up my tank, and it lasted me for a week. Now it's $50. Pretty soon it's gonna be like this. Watch what I tell. I don't waste my voice for anything, and I don't speak on anything that's not true and that can't be proven with facts. You can see the facts right in front of your eyes. Some of you can see it, and some of you just be in a denial, like I said. But regardless, it's still gonna be true whether you're in denial or not. Period. All right, let's get back to this clip, man.
18 months ago, $1 bought 1,500 Lebanese lira. Now it buys 16,000. Average workers are making the same, while prices for basic necessities have soared. Before the crisis, Lebanon's minimum wage was $450 a month. Today, it's less than 50. But how did Lebanon get here? The Lebanon Economic Monitor, which is affiliated with the World Bank, found two things. There was a lack of political consensus over effective policy initiatives and a lack of understanding on how to prevent a bankrupt economic system, which benefited a few for so long. Last year, Lebanon defaulted on its sovereign debt, and now its central bank says it's effectively ending fuel subsidies. So when you mix a country that is heavily dependent on imports and then cut government handouts, you get the perfect recipe for hyperinflation.
In normal days, less than a couple years ago, those would have been worth around 40,000 liras, which is around $30. Let's see how much are those worth today. What should have been at most 40,000 Lebanese liras today is worth 180,000 Lebanese liras.
Do y'all see that? This is what hyperinflation called. We are moving into a high. If you don't see the pattern, if you can't see the pattern, something is wrong with you. If you don't see the pattern, we are moving into a hyperinflation. Don't listen to these so-called economist gurus. Somebody who these people are misleading you. Period. They are misleading you. They leading you right into the fire and you letting them. We are moving, regardless of what you or anybody else try to say, we are moving into a hyperinflation. There is no avoiding it. You can try to mask the situations, like they come up with, oh, we got to do something with the economy and this and that before we have to shut down the government. And they come up with this plan. They put the band-aid on the wound, but the wound too big and it's still bleeding. And then the blood gets so overpowering that it throws off the band-aid, and then here comes more more inflation, and then guess what? They try to come up with a bigger band-aid, and guess what? The wound's still there because it hasn't closed, because they hasn't dealt with the actual wound. They haven't sealed it up. They haven't put a needle with thread through to try to close the wound up. Guess what? They put another bigger band-aid on it, so the wound washes the band-aid off, and guess what? More hyperinflation to this point of no return. And we almost at that point of no return. Do you see the big jump? 40,000 liras to 180,000. That's 20, like you said, 26%. That's a big jump. Are you kidding me? This is the world you are moving into. Slowly but surely. But you let these people lead you right into the fire because you believe they economist gurus. Oh, they the worldwide media. Well, we the new media. We're gonna speak the truth, and we're gonna give you the ugly, the good, bad, and the ugly, whether you like it or not.
Tomorrow, it'll be more.
But Lebanon is far from an outlier. Over the last 2 decades, other countries have seen their currencies plummet and their economies crumble. Take Venezuela, which is the nightmare scenario Lebanon could be headed towards. At last check, $1 US for over 4 million Venezuelan bolivars.
Venezuelan bolivars. Did you know that a single sheet of toilet paper is worth more than the most expensive bill?
Toilet paper is worth more than the most expensive bill. This is the world you're moving into. This is the world you're moving into. Wake up and smell the dang on roses or coffee or whatever analogy you like to make. This is the world you're moving into.
This is an example of the inflation rates in Venezuela. All of this money is barely $4.
Venezuela's economy was
freaking. All of that money is worth $4 freaking dollars. $4. if you don't believe me, go look this up yourself. We are moving into this type of world. This is going to be your new normal. This is going to be your new normal. I'm finna get to somebody, man, right now. Like, he's gonna explain it all, right? So, we all know Glenn Beck. Right? He speaks the truth. If you don't know who Glenn Beck is, go look up Glenn Beck. Glennbeck, right? Subscribe to his channel. Show him some love, man. So his clip is from Glenn Beck, right? He's gonna explain to you what's going on. I'm gonna leave you with this, and then, man, I hope y'all listen. I hope y'all getting yourself ready, cause this is gonna, this world you moving into, it's not gonna be a good one.
I want to tell you the truth that I don't think anybody is really explaining. This is going to last a couple of breaks. If you can, clear out just 15 minutes here, or go back and listen to it on the podcast. But we are collectively living through "you broke it, you bought it" right now, and it's the Federal Reserve that has broke it, and now we are buying it. And I'm not talking about Jerome Powell or, the decision to unleash the modern monetary theory on the world's largest economy. Those ideas are bad enough to print money out of thin air and a means to fund $1 trillion per month deficit is idiotic, but we're doing more than that. The script for the modern monetary theory and its destruction of the free market and the United States wasn't written by Trump or Powell or Greenspan or Obama. It was written more than 100 years ago by the clowns at the Federal Reserve System. What happened to our economy in 2008 was clearly inevitable, and it was clear to anyone who wasn't a part of the system. You could see it coming, and we can see what's coming now. The DNA of disaster is built into the institution itself. It's a private banking cartel, not a own answer to voters. They were granted complete oversight of the country's currency and monetary system. That's insane. By design, they can't be recalled by Congress or by voters or by the president. When the president appoints somebody to the head of the Fed, that's a recommendation. They don't have to go with that. The tools that was granted to them by Congress, the progressives, and Woodrow Wilson give them unlimited power to choose winners and losers. And right now, Main Street is losing. Over the last 90 days alone, the Fed has deployed more currency than it did in the previous 90 days. And we are now looking at funding the government to the tune of $4 trillion worth of bond purchases. So the Federal Reserve has printed up money and bought our debt in Congress to the tune of $4 trillion. The Fed now is the largest buyer and holder of not only federal debt, but also of corporate debt. They have spent over $2 trillion to lend monies to companies that would otherwise default and be in bankruptcy. We are now in a zombie economy of dead but still walking companies that would otherwise go belly up. The Fed also is now the largest landowner in the world.
Listen to what he's saying. They are the largest landowners in the world. Remember earlier in the video, I told you they buying up everything. They own your house. If you got a loan to buy a house through a bank, you don't own it. The bank don't own it. The Federal Reserve which is, we established earlier, a private entity, not owned by the government, but ran by the elite. Listen to me. Follow the money. The elite is buying up everything. They sucking every little bit of your pension, 401k, whatever savings you have in the bank, they sucking it all. And leave you penniless. I went over this through a video last year. That they trying to suck you dry. And they doing it. They doing it. Rising inflation, runaway inflation, hyperinflation, stagflation. Get ready for the martial law I was telling you about in another video. If you haven't watched these videos, you need to go watch it, then you understand where this video is coming from. Wake up. It's time to wake up. It's time to realize what's going on. It's time to realize that y'all need to get y'all stuff together for your kids, for your children. Get it together. Because if you don't, you will regret it, and then you're gonna think back to my videos, you're gonna be like, damn. That guy and other people that were doing videos like this was right. Why didn't I listen? I could have been prepared. You could have. My family's gonna be prepared. 'Cause I'm on top of things.
With more than 60% of the entire U.S. mortgage industry on its books, your bank probably does not own your home. You don't own it. The Federal Reserve owns it now. They are the largest landowner in the world. So what does all of this mean? Well, we will explain when we come back. What we are doing is we are printing money now. We are printing money. We have printed
Remember, I was telling you about printing money is one of the causes of inflation. Hence, those checks they was giving people, trillions of dollars. Listen to me. If you don't believe me, listen to Glenn Beck. If you don't believe Glenn Beck, do the math yourself. And you will see where you end up. Alright, let me go back just a tad bit so you can hear everything he's saying in this part. I want you to hear this.
Money. Now, we are printing money. We have printed 90 years worth of currency. 90 years of currency in the past 90 days.
90 years worth of currency in the past 90 days. And you wonder why we are inflation. You wonder why, right? Okay.
We are staring down the barrel of a mathematically certain hyperinflation event, and we have seen it over and over and over again around the world. It always ends the same way. And that will mean higher prices for gas and t-shirts and food and toys on Amazon Prime. It's going to mean higher prices for everything that will put you in a box. We're already seeing inflation. In fact, I think we're starting to see hyperinflation, and where you're seeing it is in the stock market. The supply of dollars provided to companies through the Fed is so massive. So the price of stocks has skyrocketed because of the increased demand. But eventually, those dollars will start to spill into the larger economy. Right now, what is saving us from massive inflation is no one is spending any money. But our dollar, the value of our dollar, is crashing overseas. More dollars in circulation.
You see what's going on? I showed you what's going on over there. And I told you, in order to collapse a earth-wide economy, you have to collapse the fiat dollar. You have to. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Because every other country depends on what? The dollar. They do transactions in what? The dollar. So guess what? You collapse the dollar, you collapse these countries. You see how easy it is for these elites? They only have to crash one place and then all the rest fall like dominoes.
The lower and lower the purchasing power, that's inflation. And it's coming in a scale that we have not seen since Venezuela or Zimbabwe, Argentina, or the Weimar Republic in Germany. Now, what the Democrats don't want you to know that's in phase 4 of their COVID-19 bailout program are all kinds of new powers for the Federal Reserve, including the power to create bank accounts for every American at a Fed charter bank. Well, at least then we'd know which banks are the banks of the Fed. The Fed then can simply print the digital currency into existence and put it directly into the account of American citizens. This is universal.
Guess what? Remember, they want to start a one world government. One world government, one world currency. Guess what is that one world currency? It's not the dollar. It's not the yuan. It's not the peso. It's not the ruble. What is it? It is cryptocurrency, digital currency. They coming out with the Fed coin. Remember I told you in the video about last year, probably like 9-10 months ago, something like that, roughly like that. But I told you about it. Now you seeing it. You see it. I told you about it about a year ago, and now you're seeing it. So a lot of things I talked about in my video a year ago, guess what? You seeing it today. Tell me if I'm lying. Tell me you ain't spending more money than you normally do when you go to the store. Tell me you don't spend more money than you normally do when you go buy gas. Tell me I'm lying. I wait. That's what I thought. I ain't waiting because you ain't even gonna tell me because you already know.
So basic income and stimulus or reparation payments printed into existence and paid directly into the account that every American would now have with the Federal Reserve. That does not end well.
One World
We know
Bank.
how it ends.
I talked about that
can print
too.
currency, but they cannot create wealth. By printing currency, they can destroy wealth. The real value comes in the full faith and credit. Well, no one believes that we're going to pay anything back anymore. The doom was written into this structure. This is a central planned economy now, and those are always due to fail. Every central committee that ever tries to do centralized planning fails over and over and over again, and we've fooled ourselves thinking that we have some sort of a free market because the Fed is there, the central bank, the state-backed monopoly with zero oversight from anyone who's elected. They are answerable to no one. And we pretend our economy isn't central planning.
Glenn Beck, if you're watching this video, man, you bringing out the truth, man. Because the Federal Reserve is basically, like I said before, is the elite. They buying up everything. They're trying to suck everything about your bank account, your 401k, your pension, anything that you got that you trying to save for retiring, you will not have. You won't. Mark my words. They slowly but surely sucking you dry. Yes.
So what is the net result here? What is the real world effect for you? The dollar is going to collapse as the world reserve currency. And please, if you've listened to me for a long time, you know how many times they've said that can never happen with all kinds of stuff, including socialists and communists and anarchists working together to overthrow capitalism and the Western world. It's happening. So no matter what the experts tell you, please do your own homework. Don't take it from me as gospel. Do your own homework, because this is what it's going to mean. Right now, farmers in South Africa, they grow and they pick cotton and they deliver it to market. And the cotton is then shipped by boat to Indonesia, where it's processed into fabric. Fabric is then sent over to another ship to go to China, where it's made into t-shirt blanks. Then these t-shirts are shipped to a Walmart factory in Mexico, where they are screen printed with a logo and tags added. Then they're shipped to a U.S. warehouse and then to a U.S. store, where you then can buy that t-shirt for $3.99. Think of that. $3.99 to pay a farmer, a cotton textile firm, screen printing company, a U.S. store, plus 3 boat rides for $3.99. The reason why we pay $3.99 of the dollar. Imagine that same to buying for $5 is now $28. That's the average cost of that same t-shirt in the EU. The same cost of that t-shirt in Australia and Uruguay. Imagine if your next McDonald's meal is $25. Your school lunch for your kids runs $10 a day. Your next car costs as much as your house did 5 years ago. That's what's coming.
Hyperinflation.
It's a realistic picture. And it has nothing to do with Donald Trump or Barack Obama or Richard Nixon or anybody else. This was going to be the result of the system, because the system is inherently bad and not free market. There is no incentive to prevent corruption or ego or 100 other vices that run amok. Now, that doesn't mean that the dollar means the collapse of the U.S. economy. But it does mean we should all look up the word austerity and take it to heart in our own lives. So what can be done to prevent this? Well, we could abolish the Federal Reserve System. We could cancel all debts owed by Uncle Sam to the Fed, and move the currency creation back to the Treasury Department. But you and I both know that's not going to happen.
Nope.
We'll probably go the other route. A dollar decline globally, coinciding with massive printing of new dollars, that always equals hyperinflation, and then a great reset. And as we get there, your dollar...
Boom! And that was the video I did a few videos back, the Great Reset. If you haven't watched that video, I got a lot of jewels in that video, so you need to watch it, man. Guys, gotta excuse me, I'm a little tired. You know, it's about it's 3:20 in the morning. I'm doing this for y'all because I want to keep being consistent with things, and I want to keep you guys consistently up to date with what's going on. Subscribe, man, to the channel. Keep me going, man. Subscribe to it. The more you subscribe, the more motivation I will have to do more videos, to bring out more of this truth. because I have something to do it for. You the reason why I do it. If I have no subscribers, then I wouldn't be able to do it. Who would listen? Who would hear the truth? So I'm hoping y'all heard everything that I said, everything that these people said in these clips, because it's inevitable. The dollar is going to be demolished. Your money, no matter if you got trillions of dollars in the bank, will be worth less than toilet paper. Now, if you want the elite to do it, then follow suit. Go ahead and get the RFID chip. Go ahead and, participate in all this bull crap. Because me and my family is not. We're going to be okay. We're going to stay on top of things. And I hope you guys do too. If you grow your own food, have your own electricity, which is solar, and all that, you won't need the government. You have skills to build. You have your wife or significant other has skills to use the sewing machine, and you good. You won't need them for anything because you slaughter your own meat. You grow your own food. You make your own clothes. You got your own electricity. What you need them for? What? For what? Get yourself ready. Get it ready. That being said, we're going to leave it at that. This is your boy, Unapologetic Truth. The channel where we speak the truth and don't apologize for it. Why? Because the truth never apologize. I'm out.